Good morning, guys. Welcome to this Wednesday, March 26th. And wrapping up this week almost. We got pretty much a holding pattern in the overnight, not much action going on. Pretty much hanging in around, just holding on to their gains. And that's a good sign. And no selling signs, at least yet. We are up against resistance, though, on the ES. We're getting pretty close to that section of congestion here. So if we can get past that, we will be in good shape. If not, we may see another rotation down again. So before we get into that a bit further, let's take a look at the news. We got the mortgage apps out this morning. They were pretty much flat, a little bit to the downside. So not the huge recovery there. Then at 8:30, we get durable goods. We have a Kashkari speaking at 10:30, we get an oil report. And we have a 5-year auction at 1. So that's pretty much what we got going. So durable goods, I think, is going to be the number to watch, and then we'll see how the market reacts after that. Oil report at 10:30 if you're watching oil and energies. But that's about it. So pretty light on the news. Tomorrow, though, we get GDP read. That's going to be like another read on the fourth quarter. So that's probably not going to be a big deal. And so tomorrow's news is kind of light, and then Friday we get the PCE number, that personal income number, and that's going to be interesting. There can be a little bit of reaction on Friday morning. But to get started, I mean, we had the Monday gap up here, started heading higher. Yesterday's trading holding on to their gains, but extending us a little bit. Today we haven't quite extended anything today so far. We're just kind of holding in yesterday's range. So let's hope that we can get a little bit of a pop. Something to take us past this area of congestion. If we can get past that one and get up above that, it's going to be above 5,900. It's kind of where we need to be. But once they pass the 58, 70 to 80s, we're in good shape. So, but once they clear the 5,900, starts trading above that, I think we are on our way higher. So at this point right now, we had a pretty good move to the downside. So far, we are right back up again, a reverse retest in this area of congestion. So in the bigger picture, we haven't cleared any hurdles yet. We just bounced off the lows, and we had a little bit of strength. We may have a start or something. We definitely had a start and move out of the middle to the upside on capital flow, but we are running into that first key area of resistance. So if we can get past that one, we may be in good shape to turn this around and start seeing a little bit of a rally developing. But at this point, starting off range bound, looking for short setups against the 58.30s, 35s, 50s, 58.70s for rotations back down, and the 80s here. So these are the three areas. I talked about them yesterday. That's going to take us past this whole area. So these three areas ahead of us are key. We need to get past them if we can do that, and the bulls on the long side is going to definitely get some more traction. But at this point, I'm still watching the market if you're going to see a reverse retest against these for a potential move lower. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. So starting off range bound, still looking for strength to retest these upper levels, but I'm going to be looking for short setups against that 35s, the 50s, 65s, and the 70 and the 80s. This is like 58, 7. It's like 65, 70s, and this is like the 58, 80s for rotations back down again. So that's kind of where we are in the bigger picture. All right, so and on the way down, if you get early weakness, I'm going to be looking at buying that against 58.15s, the 5800s down to that 57.90s for rotations back up. Below the 90s, I think at that point, that would be it's 7. That would be this little 3 to 4 letter edge shift. I think we may see a reverse retest of the 57.60s, maybe even down here to test that 57.30s again. So a little gap up we had from Monday. So this is just where we remember Friday we were down here at the 57 below that risk. Well, right now it's support, but this area at 57.30s. So this area right there, we were below that when we closed right up against it. and then we gapped above it on Monday. So if they take out this area, the 57.90s, I would be looking for a reverse retest of the 57.60s, maybe even down a gap closure trade at a gap, gap closure trade at 57.30s. So we'll see how far they can take it on the downside. At this point, though, starting off range bound, keeping my bias to the upside. If they can't extend today, we'll just enter stage 2 on the profile. Maybe look for some weakness to cut off the selling to see if we can find the lower side or the other side of the edge, or the distribution, I should say. But at this point, basically starting off range bound, see if they can continue to the upside. So that's the bigger picture, and that's kind of how we're going to get this started. So initially looking to buy against 58.15s, 5800s, 57.90s for rotations back up. Below that 57.90s, look for potential retracement trades back to that 57s, this 57.60s, and then or potentially all the way down here to that gap below that 57.30s. I would be testing this lower area, the gap down here. So we'll see if they can hold on to this. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed, but I think at this point, 57.90 is the one I'm watching for potential moves to the downside. And if we get some strength here to start trying to take this higher, I'm still watching for short setups against the 35s. Not so aggressive there, but definitely against that 58.50s, the 58.60, 65s, 65.70s. I'm going to just say 65s, and then 58.80s rotations back down. And these are the three areas they need to take out. If they can clean those up and start trading above it, I think we are in pretty good shape to take this to the kick off a little rally going into the spring here. But this is key. So that is a reverse retest of that big congestion area on the capital flow chart. And if they can clear that, we are on our way. So range bound trading to get going. Let's see how this whole thing shakes out. And the news this morning is none of the news I think is going to knock it one way or the other. So we'll see if there's some follow through on this little move we had so far. We have to be mindful. We are maybe heading up against this area of resistance, pretty good one at that. So it could certainly be some churn going on here. It could be some nice shorts setting up against these upper areas, but also yes, to get up to these areas, there is some long setups in there as well. So if you start taking this higher, there could be a nice long trade up to that 58.50s, and from 58.50s up to that 58.65, 70. So there could be a couple of long trades on the way up here for sure. And but I would be looking for shorts against these guys, and in the bigger picture, these are areas which potentially could stall this little momentum to the upside we've been seeing in the last few days. All right, and if we start off on the other side, early weakness, I would be looking to buy it all the way down to that 57.90 level. All right, so that's how we get started on the ES. Looking at the bonds and the Nasdaq. The bond market pretty much range bound. That's kind of sitting in this range right now. Been going back and forth and they're building value. Not going to spend too much time on the bonds. I haven't done much trading on it, and and it hasn't really been moving a whole lot either. It's one of these markets you're watching it to get perspective, but it could set up some nice trades, and you get on a nice bond trade, you can make a good chunk of money. But they're down here testing that volume edge here again. So it looks like they want to take this lower. So the attractor again is down here at the 114.25, so 24.25. That's your next attractor if they stay below this volume edge. So they were up here yesterday, and the overnight is right back down again. This could just set up a nice retest at the 115.28. But if 115.28 comes out, look for that potential move down here to the 114.24 to 25 level. So watch for that potential retest setup. But as I said, bond market has been moving. There's not a lot of movement. You had to just be very patient trading that thing. And I mean patient. It's not sitting there for half hours just watching a trade, On the Nasdaq, same story as the ES. We are back up in pretty good territory, but we got a little bit more range to go. Nasdaq almost, it's not quite going to count it as an extension, but the overnight tries to take it a little bit higher, get knocked down. So I would just leave it as a range for now, not count us as a new extension. Um, but they have a little bit more range to go. And when they get up to this upper area, the 20,700 to 900, that's going to be running to that congestion area. So same dynamic as the ES is right now. So the ES is in a spot where they potentially can take us past this area on the ES side and then drag the Nasdaq with it. That could be interesting. That would be a nice move. That basically the big tech's not leading us higher. Either that, or you'll see the big techs leading us higher, and in which case you're probably going to see this one close out the range pretty quick, and then you see the ES just churning around for a bit. But then they have a little bit of a range to cover still. So if you can see them head up to this 700 level. So I'm going to start off range bound. I'm going to keep a slight bias to the upside on the Nasdaq and see if they can run it higher. So looking to buy weakness against the 440, 440s, 400s, 360s down to the 320s. They start trading below this volume edge and definitely below this 290 edge. And I would look for a retracement trade. So 290, that's this big volume edge you're seeing right there. That's this edge here. Yeah, my global crosshair on, you can see it moving. So if they take out this volume edge on the way down, I would be looking for a retracement trade, same as the ES, for a reverse retest of the 140, 150, that 4-letter edge, and or potentially a gap trade, a retest. I mean, in other words, retesting this little gap up we have from Monday. So those are the two spots on the way down if they take out this volume edge and starts trading below it. So, but Nasdaq I think has a little bit more range to go on the upside before they really run into resistance. So, and they have this nice attractor up here at the 800s. So we could see them run right up to that attractor before they really find some resistance. But same as the ES, Nasdaq has to clear this whole churning area and get up above this. It's the 2900s. I would say if they can get up above that, I think they're in good shape to maybe start heading higher. But at this point, running out, getting close to that resistance area, I would still stay on the long side on the Nasdaq at least to get started, and then watching that volume edge here at the 330 and the 290s. Those two support areas come out. I would be on the short side looking for that retracement trade. All right, so that's the Nasdaq. And between Nasdaq and ES, it's a mixed bag. Which one you prefer to trading right now? It's both of them gives opportunities. Nasdaq is a little bit quicker on the draw, but it's both of them can yield some nice trades. All right, so that's the Nasdaq and the bonds. Looking at oil and gold, and not much to say about those. So I haven't touched those for a bit now. Gold is on down, which seems interesting, but when it moves much in the overnight and then pretty choppy during the day session. So how do you really be careful trading that one? They are up against this area though, the 3030s and the 35s. Right now holding right at that volume edge. So reverse retesting this, not the volume edge, but the reverse retesting this edge. And if they take it out, we are back up in this 3040 area and probably back in this attractor area. But so far, they have not been able to take it lower. So we had this big probe down here on the 21st, and then pretty much nothing going on here on Monday. This could not take it lower. Yesterday, they were almost back in the 40s, and then for a short period of time, then right back down, and now they're heading back up again. So I would probably expect them to take out this edge and trade back up in this upper area at this point. It doesn't need to happen that way, but I would expect that to happen at this point. If it holds though, if 35s holds, it could be a nice short trade right back down here to test the 3000s again. So I'm not going to be super aggressive on the long side until they take out, not super aggressive is the wrong word, but I would not be staying on it or hopping on the long side of this until they take out the 35s and then back up in this upper area. But then they had to kind of clear a couple of upper areas before the bulls really start leaning into this one, because this is just a regular attraction area. So it's on my gold here, you can see they right back up in this upper volume edge. That's where they end up. So this whole area right now, between the 3040s and the 3000s, could be traded. So If that edge, that 35 holds, we can certainly see a rotation right back to this attractor at 3,000. So this is the bigger picture. That's what I have a building value right now. All right, so that's gold. And remember, this is one more day, and I'm going to roll this one to the June expiration. And then oil, that's kind of holding pattern. They've been grinding higher the last few days due to oil tariff threats and energy tariffs getting back on the table. And I'm not going to worry too much more on the long side. They are pretty much right back up in this upper area right now. So you can see slow grind back up again. And I would expect as soon as some clarity on that energy situation shows up, then we'll probably see the prices start dropping right away. They're going all in on different energies, different types of energy. So chances are that we're going to see oil prices drop pretty quick here. But at this point, as long as they do this, the energy tariff stuff, and we have some issues in the Middle East, probably going to be staying in around the 68 to 70 range. They were down here at the 66s for a while, and they can certainly head back down and test that area again. But I think this is just a temporary little move to the upside. So I would say I would trade it primarily range bound. I would still keep a slight bias to the upside just to see if they can keep grinding this higher, but not going to be very aggressive trading oil until I see a big move start happening. So kind of sloppy trading on the side of oil. But at this point, I would look to buy against the 69.40s, 69s for rotations back up. And below 69s, just go back range bound and then look for potential retracements to the downside. All right, so that's oil and gold. As I said, not going to pay too much attention to those. I think the ES and NASDAQ has more opportunities right now in the short term. So back to the ES, and as I said, ES is right up against this key areas of resistance. There's a bit of range. There's 30 up to the 80s, a 50-point range up here on the upside. You need to clear. And but this could also set up a beautiful short trade if the market is getting ready to slam it again. So we're not quite out of the woods yet, but if they can clear that upper 58.80, really start moving higher, I think we are on our way higher at that point. I would be more aggressive on the long side at that point. At this right now, we ran and we had a big gap up Monday, a little bit of continuation Tuesday, Wednesday, so gap up Monday, a little bit of continuation on Tuesday, yes, not much, more of a range bound day. And so far today, we haven't really extended a whole lot. So we will see where they're going to go. But on the short side, on the ES, below 57.90s, I would be more aggressive on the short side, looking for a move to the downside. All right. So that's how we get started. The news coming out in about 6 minutes. No, do we have news? Yeah, durable goods at 8:30, coming out in about 6 minutes. So we'll wrap it there. So good trading, guys. And I will see you back at 11:30 for the next update. So later.